And then, in general, let's attack a little bit on Margaret Sanger. What do you know about her?
Well, listen, everything that I advocate, any websites or groups that I advocate about her or anything I've written about her, I mean, these quotes come from, people, she's under attack. It's a conspiracy against Margaret. I didn't say this stuff. Nobody said, people take her own words. When she's talking about, the original name of Planned Parenthood was the Negro Project. I mean, come on. That says it all to me right there. And she's calling the handicaps and minorities human weeds. She's referring to, this is from her own literature. A lot of people get angry saying that there's a conspiracy against her, an attack. There's no conspiracy. Go read her book. Go read what she said. I mean, this was the foundations of Planned Parenthood. And, Michael, like I said, I understand. I mean, horrible things happen. My issue is this, Michael. Whenever I get into a discussion about abortion with anybody, whether they're pro-life or pro-choice, this is where the conversation goes right away. The pro-choice person says, I'm totally against abortion, but it should be legal because of rape. Okay, then the pro-life person says the same thing. I'm totally against abortion. It should be illegal except for a rape. Now, both of you are talking about rape and sexual assault, okay? You know how many abortions there have been in America, Michael, since 1973? There's been over 50 million. You know how many of those were from rape and incest? 1% combined.
Wow.
Half of all American women. I read a statistic one time. I've read it multiple times. I've found this to be very fascinating. Half of all women that get an abortion in America get more than one. Now, when my pro-choice friends say to me, abortion should be legal, but I'm against it being used as birth control. Well, if you're against it being used as birth control, shouldn't you maybe know these facts? I mean, shouldn't you know that 1%? I mean, why does the conversation always go right to rape? To me, that's an insult to rape victims. Now, I've had, contrary to popular belief, I've got many young ladies who have helped me out with my organization, who sit at my table with me, that are not only pro-choice, that have not only been sexually assaulted, but have had abortions. I have never, ever, there are girls probably listening to this right now that tuned into my website that have had abortions that know I would never pass judgment on them. I've never judged them. When the whole town was saying, why are you hanging out with her? She's a scumbag. Many times I was the only one that was there to help them. So I find it very disturbing that me pointing this out or trying to alert people about Planned Parenthood and them hiding statutory rape or aiding in child prostitution rings, I find it disturbing that right away anyone who dares speak out about this is instantaneously put in the category of they hate women, they hate rape victims. Come on. I mean, that's not true. That's the right-wing versus left-wing ideology. It's, I got to turn a blind eye to this or I'm not liberal enough or whatever. And I just, and it goes, like I said, it's the same in the right wing. It's both of them. And I just think people, again, it's, you know what, Michael? It's like with the animal rights. Know where your food's coming from. If you're pro-choice, fine. I write about being pro-life. If you have no problem with this and what's happening with abortion in America, I'm fine with it. But know what you're talking about, and that's my issue. And a lot of my my abortion beliefs, it actually doesn't come from, like I said earlier, being a Catholic. My abortion beliefs is simply because, like I said, I'm an environmentalist, I'm a vegan. I'm one of these guys that believes the endangered flower should be saved, the endangered fish. So why would I exclude the unborn? You know what I mean? To me, it just makes sense that being a vegan and promoting, like you said, the voiceless, why would you not put the unborn in there? And I also don't think that girls who get pregnant should be left out in the cold. I don't believe that either. We live in a world where guys are not taking responsibility. It's nothing to sleep with a girl, use her, and then ditch her after she gets pregnant. So to me, that's the bigger problem, not the abortion.
I kind of wanted to let both of you guys know, at least as far as the statistics in Milwaukee are concerned, 51% of the single mothers are white in this city that are living below poverty level. They're not black. They're white.
Right. Well, that doesn't surprise me, actually, Caitlin.
It shocks a lot of people. You should see the look I'm getting from Michael right now.
Right.
Most of the women that are on the welfare program are white.
That's something that Milwaukee needs to know. I'm glad you dug that up because, look, we're a strange, segregated city here. I've lived down south, and I found more racial harmony down there, where classic or traditionally you would think that there would be a lot of separatism or segregation, and oddly enough, Milwaukee has this unique history of segregation in this city, and the perceptions on these matters definitely. When you read that figure to me, I was shocked, just like most people are shocked to find out that the large number of black abortions that are taking place. And why is it taking place? Well, we've become a culture of how can I even put this? I don't even know if there's a classification for this, but
lack of responsibility.
Yeah, because look at the media. Look at what the black artists, the rapping artists, are doing. Women are all some derogatory term. I don't swear, Dan, so I'm not going to repeat what they say. You all know what I'm talking about. But that is their attitude.
It's nothing. It's nothing to call a woman that now, and it's nothing to cheat on a girl. Absolutely
right, and it's nothing to get her pregnant and say, "Oh, it's not mine," and walk away.
Right.
So we're really breeding a a level of lack of responsibility in men.
And Caitlin, I get so much garbage thrown at me for me being pro-life and this and that, but to me, it's like I didn't just wake up one day and be like, "Oh, I'm pro-life because the church said it." To me, it's an extension of this girls gone wild culture, this problem. And just with that statistic you threw out also, Caitlin, I want to say, I've always said, I've never looked at anything as being a black problem or a white problem. I think it's across the board. And I think what Michael was getting at when he brought it up was that not necessarily now, in this day and age, who's getting abortions, minorities versus white or whatever. I think what he was getting more into is the roots of Planned Parenthood and how Margaret Sanger started it and that whole thing.
It's Nazism.
Right, and again, I mean, listen, man, go to my website, look at, a lot of people say, oh, those videos that Live Action puts up are edited and this and that. They've got all the raw footage is available. I mean, the unedited, it kills me when people say it's editing. They make all the raw footage available. So, it's all right there. I think it's pretty straightforward, like what's going on with all that.
Well, too, and I think this all dovetails into another hard-hitting area wherein basically when the African slaves were first brought, or actually when Africans were brought over and made slaves, that's better said. Yeah. Basically, Africa, as I understand it, culturally operates from a matriarchal system, which is quite in conflict with our patriarchal European system. And to break these big words down, look, mother-based or father-based. And what we had in the early slave trades occurring is, and this wasn't just to people of African descent. The Romans would do this with other tribes and cultures in Europe. Basically, what they would do is they'd bring their women out, and they would kill their men brutally in front of them, and they'd say, okay, now, if you don't want this done to your little boys, you're going to keep them in line. So immediately they would enlist the women to start the internal mind control of the tribe or group that's being enslaved. And I think this has been passed on further. I'm gonna say this, and I'd like to get feedback from. I wish we could take callers on this thing, but we only have one stupid line coming in. But basically, it goes like this.
And I'm on it.
That's to be changed soon, though.
Well, we're working on it. But here, I'm sure you would agree, Dan, that what we've had developed since the 70s is the government came in through welfare programs. And I'm not against people receiving assistance when they actually need it, but this was insidious. Not only did it in part enslave the African American population, and now the growing number of white recipients who far outnumber African receivers of welfare, but it basically replaced the father in the home, and it allowed the mother to take that matriarchal power position where she's like, look, I don't need you here. And what would we do? We would, whether we had children on purpose or accidentally, as it were, through our own whatever, we would get in the situation where we could argue about how this was going to be done. And the man had a sense of like, look, I provide for this family. That slowly, I mean, when feminists, I'm all glad. I mean, believe me, I think it was horrendous that it took forever for women to vote in this country, to have the right to vote.
It's embarrassing that it took so long for them to be able to vote.
But in the same token, for the same token, what's happened now is both parents are working twice as much to make the same amount of pay as the man would make in the previous wage slot. So we've actually backpedaled. Women still have less job positions in the marketplace. I mean, we've got a way to go, but Why can't women gain their rights, yet at the same time not have this program wherein men are ostracized from society?
And why does all women's rights revolve around abortion? Why not about like all the other topics? And
I don't
to
think
me,
they
women's
do.
rights is about being able to go to school and do the things that you can't do in other countries. You know what I mean? I mean, it's horrible the way they treat women around the world. I mean, I know a buddy who he was in Iraq, and I guess he said a girl came out and waved to the soldiers, and some dudes grabbed her and cut her hair off right there in front of everybody, and for waving to other guys or taking her hood off or whatever. I mean, it's scary. It's appalling. They assassinated Benazir Bhutto in Pakistan for speaking up for women. I think, Michael, this is what I think. First of all, in Africa, the gang rape and the killing of the men and all that still goes on today. You know, it's horrible. It still continues in some ways. As far as this country, you know, Mike, I think all the points you were making are valid, and I would add on top of that, even outside of what you're talking about how the man isn't needed anymore for economic reasons, I think on top of that, you also, let's not neglect the fact that, like Caitlin had said earlier, every song on the radio, and it's not just rap, it's everything. There's this message put into teenage boys that commitment is irrelevant now. I mean, they're coming from homes where dad was hanging out at the strip club instead of being with the woman. I mean, there's an element of, like, just sexual promiscuity that plays into this.
But
where
it's one-sided, though, Dan. It's
Oh,
okay
yes,
for the
yes.
guy to do it, but it's not okay for the women. Women are mad. I'm getting angry just
women are
listening
doing
to
it
you
too,
guys
Caitlin.
talk.
Oh, absolutely. It's
What the
going
hell do
both
we
ways.
do?
And don't misunderstand me, Caitlin. I mean, it's going both ways. I mean, everything you guys are saying, I agree with, and it's going both ways. And it's you know, I just don't, you know, before a kid could rely on both his parents being there. Now it's like there's a divorce. You're living with a stepfather. A mom had 3 kids before she got married to the guy she's with now, and I think it'd be disturbing if I was a little kid. It'd be confusing and disturbing. And again, I have nothing against the gay community. I mean, some of these kids. I mean, if the parents are gay and it's 2 men or 2 women, some of these gay couples, I think, probably have more commitment and more care for the kid than some of the straight couples, if you want me to be honest.
Because they're not listening to the radio all day long telling
Right.
them that it's okay to...
Right. It's got nothing to do with gay or straight. It's more that just commitment has gone out the window.
Commitment has gone out the window.
Absolutely.
And God
Dedication,
forbid we should be, devotion, duty, responsibility. I mean, all these terms that traditionally would make a young man cringe.
Right.
But they shouldn't. There are cultures and there were days even here when that wasn't the thing, that a man was a man when he was old enough to step up to the responsibility.
14, 15 years old.
So what do the men have to aspire to now? If it's not to taking on responsibility and raising a family,
A
what
big
are they
fat
aspiring
beer
to?
gut. That's just in Milwaukee. It's how much pork, sausage, and
Cheese.
beer that you can shove in your gut
Right.
is the
Right.
status symbol. It shows like we're becoming Homer Simpsons over here in Milwaukee,
Right.
and the men. It's actually in so many ways it's just uncool to talk about.
Marriage.
Well, love.
Anything.
Love. Yes, thank you,
Right.
Dan. Let's get to the root
Yeah.
of this, as you guys have been doing. Love.
Love.
Love is a
Well,
bad thing.
and you know what, guys? I'll say something else too. And I said it. I know, you know, up where you are, it's a lot of big alcohol company. This is what I say to the young kids in my audience. You know, I've been working for years, ever since high school, working in warehouses and whatnot. And you know, the alcohol company. There's some guy sipping lemonade. You know, when people ask me why don't I drink alcohol? Well, the guy working at Budweiser or whatever other company it is doesn't get up at 4 a.m. and go to work with me and break his back every day.
That's
He's
right.
sipping lemonade, living off your money, sitting by the pool, hanging out with his Playboy model. So I don't know that guy anything. I'm not giving him 1 penny. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. That's why I don't drink.
And you know, Dan, I don't drink either, and it's actually just a fortuitous event that became so. I don't like alcohol. My body does not handle it, and I don't.
Most people don't when they first sip it, but they force themselves to acquire
Just
a
like
taste because if they don't, they won't
cigarettes.
fit in.
Well,
Exactly.
because I don't drink, I can actually notice even after 1 drink, a beer, for example, I notice the chemical physiological state of my mind changes. I start becoming a person that I frankly don't like.
Mike, I don't understand the concept of I could never put myself in a position where I don't know where I am and I'm relying on somebody else to get me home. I just don't get it. It's nothing I want a part of.
In this dangerous age, which I guess there's never not been a dangerous age, but come
Michael,
on.
College kids are left and right up here in Boston. Every other month, a kid goes missing. They're all falling in the water. They get drunk and they fall in the river.
I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh. I don't know why.
No, it's not. I mean, I
here.
giggle at some of this stuff too, but it's like, I mean, it is. It's happening it's crazy. It's craziness.
Well, and when I'm laughing, I guess, because they're falling in the water because
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. You can laugh. It's ridiculous. It should have never happened.
it's,
You know?
a lot of things shouldn't have happened, but it's this really gets interesting because I'm sure you have an opinion on this. Where are we headed if these trends continue? We're going to be just like a brave new world where we just nature's awful, breastfeeding's terrible.
Well, we're the
It's gonna. You know what I say,
world.
Michael? It's going to be like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome at some point.
Yeah.
You know.
At some point, but then isn't this? I mean, it's bizarre because on the one hand, it would be great to start over. On the other hand, the question becomes, who's going to do the starting?
Well, and the price. What's the price that the planet's going to pay to get us to that point?
And Michael, one thing, again, I don't know if you're going to a commercial or whatever. I do want to quickly, if possible, I would like to for a minute. Like I said, I'd mentioned that shooting you guys had up there. I definitely got a lot to say about that.
Yeah,
Which one? Dan, which shooting? We've had a couple.
Well, I mean the one at the mall where the guy had the domestic violence.
The one at the mosque?
It made national news. Oh, at the mosque. I'm sure.
mosque.
Yeah, you heard.
No, the mall, the one that just happened this past week.
Yes, I understood
He's
which
talking
one
about
you
the
were referring
spa.
to, but did you hear about that one? Because the First Lady was here for the
Yeah, well, it made
service.
national news. It was all over the
Yeah,
place.
everybody heard about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just
that was
wanted
a
to make
big
sure.
story.
This one, I don't know how many details you have about what happened at the mall, but that was a domestic violent thing. That
I know,
a restraining order.
yes.
And I'll tell you what, that just shows you the lax attitude. Milwaukee was brought to court not all that long ago about failing to look at assault seriously and dismissing. And I hate to say this, Dan, but I'm also one of the people in that pile of cases being victimized by the Milwaukee police because I was assaulted and the case was not properly handled. The man was not properly charged for the severity of what happened. And
Well, Caitlin, you go on, yes.
so 2 years of this getting way out of hand, restraining orders not being executed, not being recognized, not being enforced. And the biggest problem is they're not enforced by our Milwaukee police. Well, being from Massachusetts, Dan, I'm sure you're well aware of the long history Milwaukee police departments have of failing to police their own and failing to enforce the law here. So,
You know what, Caitlin? Why? Let me put it to you this way. Why would you expect the police or anybody else to take domestic violence seriously when Chris Brown, who beat Rihanna's face to a pulp, is considered a hero in this country? He's a hero.
Well, unfortunately, our police force the inception was well before Chris Brown, but I'm
absolutely.
aware of the thing with Brianna. I am actually aware of that. The fact that they're back together, to me, is sickening beyond belief.
Well, she just set an example for millions of young girls, didn't she?
Yeah,
she just told them this is what happens when you get beat up. You go back to the guy.
Was that like the Stockholm Syndrome?
Man, maybe. Hey, he's good looking. He wins. He's good looking. Of course he's going to get the girl
back. But was
back.
it that, or was it because it was seen as politically a better thing for them to do for their money, their ability to make money? Because to me, this is money-oriented.
Caitlin, I'll put it to you this way. I have no problem with forgiveness or for Chris Brown even rebuilding his career. I never had a problem with that. We all make mistakes. My issue is this. Look how quickly we were able to overlook what he did. I mean, I give the example all the time, Steve Wilkos' show. He had a show when he had all these teenage girls in the audience. Now, you're thinking teenage girls going to a Steve Wilkos show probably have a pretty good head on their shoulders to begin with if they're watching him because, I mean, he speaks out against domestic violence and all this other stuff. Well, he said, how many of you think that it was Rihanna's fault that she got hit? Half those girls put their hands up, and even Steve was amazed. And I said, if half these teenage girls put their hand up in a Steve Wilkos audience, a presumably socially conscious audience, what on earth would happen if I walked in the streets of Massachusetts, grabbed 100 random teenage girls and asked them that same question? If half of them raised their hand and the teenage in the Steve Wilkos audience, I'd say about 95 to 98% of them would have raised their hand if I plucked them off the street. So it shows what the message that's being sent to young girls about abusive relationships.
So this incident that happened in the mall over the weekend is just, again, an offshoot. I did catch just a few minutes of an interview with a woman that was actually sitting in the seat.
Right.
I don't even know that these people were married, but the ex-girlfriend was very calm, got her own client to safety.
Right.
But again, this is a situation. Why wasn't anybody enforcing this? The guy got a gun. It took him 2 days to get a gun. There's no enforcement of restraining orders or injunctions.
Well, you know, Caitlin, there's so much. People get different views on gun laws and this and that. I mean, I think that's a clear situation when, you know, if you've got a restraining order against you, I mean, there's got to be some type of law where you can't get weapons. I think that, you know, it's the old cliche. Did you say there is?
There is, but it wasn't enforced.
Yeah, it wasn't enforced, right, as what you were saying before. It wasn't enforced. I mean, you know, you can have, there's gun law. I mean, in Massachusetts, it's like, I mean, you got gun laws and the gangs still get their hands on guns. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. But what I think, Caitlin, if you want my spin on it, I think I go beyond the gun law and the technicalities of restraining orders and this and that. I look at it the same way I look at a kid who a kid who brings a gun to school is the same as a guy who shoots his ex-girlfriend because she won't go out with him. To me, I believe that something has happened in this country where when you get in a conflict, you weigh your options out. I mean, it's decision making. It's coming up with a plan. What am I going to do? When you're in a situation now in America where someone has hurt your feelings, whether it be at school, whether it be a girlfriend, whether it be somebody at work, you now have going into work, going into school, going into where your girlfriend works, killing whoever hurt you, and then killing yourself is now an option. It's literally an option you have that you can consider as legitimate. Look how often it happens now. Look at Columbine. The minute Columbine happened, they were the trailblazer. Now you've got all these school shootings everywhere, copycats. It's now an option a kid has.
I see what you're saying, Dan. Just merely by suggesting it or putting it on the media, you get these copycat crimes occurring, and that it's just like when they attempt to teach kids about suicide prevention. What they're really doing is inviting them to commit suicide. That's what you're getting at, isn't it?
Possibly. I'd say a better example would be when you go to up here in Massachusetts, they got this thing at this place called the Hanover Mall, and every year, right around this time of year, they have this big thing where the police show up, and it's like a DARE program thing, and they've got all this different drug paraphernalia for the kids to see.
Show.
Yeah, they do that.
And they're showing the kids how to do drugs. I mean, I think that might actually be
youngins.
Right. I mean, that might be a little better example. And and a lot of people have told me, you should have a table set up at that thing. And it's like they don't want me around, man. Like my views are probably in contrast to theirs. But Michael, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, with suicide, I mean, again, it's a shame. I mean, I've accumulated a young audience, and I tell these kids, if you're getting made fun of, if you're depressed, I mean, we've all gone through depression. I have. I mean, it's the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to take this horrible thing that happened to me and turn it into something wonderful. I'm going to show everybody that I'm not that person or I can overcome this. That's lacking in the culture. Now unfortunately it's suicide. I mean, I know so many people even in my life that have committed suicide, and I'm like, man, if somebody just told them like it does get better, it does, but now it's like you got Columbine, you got this other option people have where it's suicide and bringing a gun to school,
but
and
it's
unfortunate.
I challenge kind of your take on that, Dan.
Okay.
I don't think what you're looking at. Yes, I agree that this option has emerged.
Yes.
I'm sure it's been thought of before. But my take on this is the lack of empowerment, the total lack of power you have to feel to get to the point where you are going to take your own life as well as other people. That is not even on the table. That is complete and total feeling of being completely powerless.
Well, that would make anybody depressed. Yeah.
How about this, guys? And I don't mean to talk over you. How about this, right? Let me at least say this in defense of my argument. this feeling that some people arrive at through whatever may happen in their life, what I will say is this: that's always been around. I mean, people have always been going through that. Could you guys at least agree that after Columbine, that there has been obviously something changed in the culture? I mean,
yes.
You didn't see Columbine was like the biggest story ever. Now, when there's a school shooting, it's not that big of a story, because it happens so much now.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're becoming desensitized to.
Yeah, I guess that's a better way to put it. Yeah.
But I got to say, Dan, we're not seeing these kinds of stories emerge. I mean, every once in a while I'll catch a glimpse of something where a teenager or a 20-something-year-old overseas at a college or someplace has had a meltdown. It's never anywhere near as severe as what we see here, but it is along those lines. So I understand what you're saying. It's as if they've been given a platform from which to speak. If you're feeling the ultimate disempowerment, then get on this platform, take a gun, do something that seems so sensational. It's so final, and yet, as Michael said, we're becoming so desensitized to it. Is it only a matter of time before that falls out of fashion and it becomes something else?
Right.
Are we going to threaten each other with a nuclear device?
We already
have. Yeah, good point.
If
you are getting made fun of at school, I mean, what better way to get? I mean, these kids can make themselves famous now. And it's sad. It's depressing. Personally,
I don't even think they look at it as being 15 minutes.
Right.
Of fame.
I've always told kids too. Like again, in my audience, and it's like, if you've been through something horrible, if you've been bullied at school, if you've been sexually assaulted, God knows I got so many young kids in my audience. I could use your help. I mean, why not help me talk to these other, even younger kids who are going through this? I mean, do something with your tragedy. Turn it around. Do something. I mean, I just think that's not taught as much anymore, in my opinion.
I don't know.
I could be wrong, but...
No, I think you're right. We're not talking about how people have come through adversity. I mean, you hear the stories of the guys that end up in the cereal boxes, the athletes and things, but you're not hearing the stories of, hey, what did Dad have to overcome to get to where he's at now? What did so-and-so's father, what did that minister over there have to do to get to where he's at? We don't look at personal experience as having much value unless it can be sensationalized and grandiose way beyond.
Right. And everyone's psycho now too. You notice that? Everybody's psycho. Oh, he was insanity. Plead insanity. You can't tell me all these people are insane. I mean, this is at some point you got to say, what's going on here? Why are people doing this? I don't believe they're all insane.
They aren't.
I believe that, like you said, there's a platform, Caitlin. I mean, there's a platform been put out now for this type of behavior.
Right, but people actually get to this point, though.
It's just something.
Yes, you're right.
Popped up in my head where look, everybody deals with depression. When I was a young man, I used to have thoughts of suicide, and after, I don't want to go into my life accounts, but I had some legitimate reasons to be depressed. We all do. But one of the things that actually got me through it, and I kind of thought this was kind of unique because I came up with myself and kind of saved my life. What I did was when I was hit those suicidal moments, I would play a game with myself, and I would say, okay, pretend like you're already dead. Okay, that's what you wanted out of this, right? You wanted to be dead, so it doesn't matter. So what I would do is I would continue being alive, but I'd pretend like I actually had killed myself. And every day from that, I'd tell myself, look, it doesn't matter. You're already dead, so what do you care anymore? And that's kind of how I got on through day 1, day 2, day 3. But what it became interesting to me was I said, okay, now look at all the stuff I would have missed had I actually killed myself.
Right.
And then months would go by, and eventually I'd, something good would happen to me, and I would get to that point where it's like, oh, well, thank goodness I actually didn't kill myself. But I'm just saying, for anybody out there listening, I don't know if this is helpful or not. If you really are at to that point, play a game with yourself and say, okay, good, it's a done deal. Go through your life kind of in a neutral position. I'm neither sad nor happy. It doesn't matter. I'm not even here anymore. Walk and talk as if you exist. Eat, sleep, interact with people. But then just notice, start making a list of all the stuff you would have missed had you actually killed yourself.
Michael, they can even email me. I mean, kids email me all the time. I let my advice out. If you're depressed, tell me. I'll talk to you. I write back to everybody. I know that sounds silly, but I'm even there if someone wants to talk. And you know what, Mike? I'll tell you two things. Number one, people just don't. One of the things I've noticed, people in that moment of like suicidal thoughts are not thinking about their family or the people, because you can be the biggest scumbag on earth and your mother's still going to be sad if you did that to yourself. I mean, people don't look at it that way. Number two, it's funny you brought that up, Mike, because I had a moment in life where when I was first starting this whole thing, and I thought it was going nowhere. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say I was, like, suicidal, but if a piano fell out of the sky and hit me, I don't think I would have cared at that moment. And the thing is, I always look back to this moment where I thought this whole project I had started was going nowhere. I was depressed. Here I am now, like, I mean, I'm on the phone with you guys all the way out in Milwaukee. I've been all over the place. I built up such an audience, and I always think back to that moment, like, dude, let's say I did get hit by a train or something that day. Like, I had no clue what was ahead of me. And it's like, thank God I didn't give, even never mind suicide, thank God I didn't give up on this project, because I've had so many people come up to me and say how much it helped them. And I was almost ready to throw in the towel because I thought this was going nowhere.
Oh, actually, I have to add to that, because this is how you got on the air. This is so bizarre. I was sitting at one of my local cafes, and I was being very self-indulgent. I was, quite frankly, it was Sunday. I was bummed out. It was a nice sunny day, and I was just what you were saying there. I'm like, why am I even bothering with this? It's not the leaders, it's the followers, and I'm trying to reach my fellow mammals and say, hey, look, guys, we're on the wrong track. Here's my 2 cents. We got to change direction, but I can't seem to change the direction of the herd. You stand out in front of them, they're just going to run you over. And so I was really getting down. And the church bells started ringing, and the sun came through the clouds. I'm not kidding you. It's crazy. And guess who comes walking up to me? Chet. The very gentleman who's we can thank for you being on the air today.
Right. And thanks to Chet if he's listening, too. I told him to listen. Hopefully he is.
I said, Chet, it's like you were sent from heaven or something, because you come up here and you start, and he recognized me from the show. He said, hey, aren't you Michael Wordsworth? You do the Breaking Down the News? And I said, yeah, I actually didn't. I have no idea who's listening out there or who even cares. So I'm just saying I can identify with what you were saying. And,
right. And even the way I met Chet, I mean, it was a random meeting. I mean, Zach from that band, New Society of Anarchists, he booked me to come out here. He was on tour, and so I needed a tour date. His wife, Anna, had me talk to Sheila at the Brood Cafe. I went there, did my thing there, and Chet just happened to be working that night. If he wasn't, I may have never even got in contact with you guys.
It's spooky sometimes.
Yeah, which is why I said I have not completely ever ruled out that we're here for a reason or there's higher power or whatever. I mean, despite what man has done with religion, and it's horrible that they've used it to scare people, I still, I think there's a rhyme and a reason to everything, just my 2 cents.
It's called life affirmation. That's what you gentlemen are discussing right now is the affirmation. So it really kind of sounds like, with what we've been talking about in the last 10 minutes, it would be wonderful if somebody could write a book called A Primer in Life Skills, because Michael's wonderful story about the terrible times that he went through, really, he had a coping skill. Somewhere along the line, he observed and took in a coping skill. And I think that there would be a lot more people at ease in their own skins and able to live their life better and help collectively as a society live life better if we had some of these life skills available to learn.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
Well, Michael, I'll say, too, Mike, if I tell people all the time, I've done this many times, Michael, whether it's you or anyone in the audience, I tell people all the time, if you had one of these situations and you got through it, if you want to write it down, make an article or a blog out of it, I'll put it on the live journal of my website. I'll put it on the Facebook page. I've done it many times.
To your email account?
What's that?
Where would they send that information to you?
If you go to my website, again, I'll say the website again, www.theoutlookspeaks.org. It's a play on the name of the organization because it's the Outlook Program to Stop Abuse, and I speak places, so it's theoutlookspeaks.org.
Right.
And you go there. There's 2 Facebook pages. You can reach me there. My email address is on the front page if you scroll down. It's also on the About the Outlook page. It's theoutlookspeaks@gmail.com. You can contact me. I even occasionally answer messages on the YouTube channel if you want to contact me there, although that would probably be the slowest response time. I would suggest the email or the Facebook pages. And just get at me. If you want to talk about something or you got something you can contribute, I will post it on the website. I've done it many times. I've collaborated with people. Right now I got a I'm making a booklet with a friend in Georgia and one in Louisiana who I met both of them on tour, and the three of us are going to contribute to my next pamphlet that I'm making.
I'm glad you gave that information because we're actually heading up to the top of the hour here, and the next show is getting ready to come on. But we've got just a few minutes left here, and I wanted to make sure we squeezed in any pertinent information.
Okay.
So, again, we're going to remind everybody, November 10th here in Milwaukee.
Which is a Saturday.
Yep.
And that's going to be at
At
the Port
of Hamburg.
At the Port of Hamburg. Okay. And you're thinking it's going to be starting around 5 or 6, but we'll get the specifics.
I think they said around 5 or 6. There'll be 2 bands, and then I'm going on, I believe, after the 3rd band.
Okay.
They could end up pushing me back. I've had that happen before. But I got about 20 minutes, and if you're there, you'll see me. I usually pass out the pamphlets right before I go on, and I get everyone inside, and come check out my table, too, if you want. I got
sure, we'll be there. I'm sure Michael and I will both be there.
You can have your cell
definitely.
phone with you, too, actually, the same number.
What's that, Mike?
You can have your cell phone on you, the number that
I do not own a cell phone, but if you want, Michael, I can get... No, I don't have a tumor growing out of my head either.
There you go.
Michael, if you want, I can give you the cell phone number of my friend Rick, who will be with me helping me out.
But you're
that's
do
usually
that
how I tell
air.
people to get in touch with us.
Gmail me that one, and I would definitely, because I definitely want to meet you face to face.
Right, and Michael, we can go take a walk. Like I said, I'll have time to do that if you want to chat or sit down somewhere. That's no problem at all.
Yeah.
So can Dan hang on the phone for a minute while we wrap up when it gets to be that time?
Well, actually, why don't we just let him go, because I'm going to follow up with him off area.
Yeah, you know what, Michael? I'm speaking in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania tomorrow night, so I got to get up very early. So this might be a good time to wrap it up. I gotta get to bed within the next couple hours for the show tomorrow night. But
I was going to try to leave you with a phone number before we disconnected with you. I was hoping to pick up the phone and give you a phone number to get a hold of us. We're not.
Oh, okay. So you want me to stay on the line?
Just for a second, if you would, because I'm.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
That's
fine.
The air.
Well,
yes, I can do that. That's fine.
Well, too, I've got Dan's number, and we can call him right back on the cell phone. So it's
okay.
Why don't we just end the show and we'll
Okay.
follow up? It's amazing. We spent the last part of the show just figuring out how we're going to communicate with you in the age of
Isn't that
communication.
fun?
Right.
Oh, the parody. So here, then I cue up my outro music, which lets the audience know that we were having a wonderful interview. Today's guest speaker was Dan Lozzi. He will be appearing here Saturday, November 10th at the Port of Hamburg. Sigal, here in Milwaukee's German ethnic cultural background.
But it has an Irish header. It's is it O'Kelly's or O'Klein's?
O'Keefe's Port of Hamburg in Milwaukee.
That's not a German. O'Keefe's. There we go.
I guess, can you have a Hamburg in Ireland?
You absolutely can.
Well, okay, there, I stand corrected once again. It's not the first time that it's ever
It's Girl
happened.
Friday.
All right, guys. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Oh, yes,
No
Dan.
problem.
Glad to have you back on the
And
show
all your
again.
listeners, Dan, too. Hey, nice to meet you all out there.
Thanks for everyone who tuned in. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're most welcome, sir. All right, guys, you've been listening to Breaking Down the News at riverwestradio.com. I'm Michael Wordsworth, sitting in with Caitlin Redding. Thank you for joining us on the show. We're going to say goodbye to Dan, and we'll be right back just to close the show. Take care, Dan.
Okay, thank you.